Good day, class. In this video, we are going to introduce the five elements theory. This is the last philosophical theory that we're going to introduce in the basic theory. Nowadays, the five elements theory is well known all over the world. Everyone can talk about the five elements: the wood, the fire, the earth, the metal, and the water. Or at least, you must have heard of these elements. In Chinese, we call it 五行. 五 is 5. Spelled like W, U. 五行, 5 elements. This translation, the elements, is not accurate, although we still use this translation because this translation is well accepted by people in the English world. The reason why we said it's not accurate because the 5 elements, the elements refers to a necessary or typical parts of something. So it refers to 5 essential objects or 5 essential substances of something. The original meaning of 五行, 行 in Mandarin is walk, walking. While when you walk, we say 行, especially in the traditional Mandarin. So 行 actually refers to a kind of movement. 5 different kinds of movements. 五行, it refers to 5 different kinds of movements of qi. So the subject we are discussing still based on qi. The qi movements, you got 5 different group of movements. You got 五行. 行 also includes the elements. So 五行 has 2 meanings. One is the elements, the other one is the movements. So when we talk about the 5 elements, we need to understand what elements they are. We also need to know what's the movements of them, what are the common movements of them. So this theory includes the 5 basic systems: the wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And this theory, we focus on the movements. That's the movements or the relationship, the laws of generating, controlling, insulting, and overacting. We use this theory to explain the occurrences, developments, changes, and interrelationship of all objects in the universe. So that's the use, the application of this theory. As a professions, we need to understand the accurate meaning of each definition, each terms, and each theory. In 金匮要略, it's for the 2nd volume of 伤寒论, so from the classic. Dr. Zhang described that if you see a patient with liver problem, you need to, during your treatment, you need to be care of the spleen. You need to protect the digestive function, because the liver problem will affect the spleen. So you need to protect the spleen. And from the theory, that's because the wood will affect the earth. And also similar phenomena we can see from the clinic. For example, a patient suffers from liver problem, such as jaundice. This patient will have poor appetite. That's the digestive system, digestive function, the poor appetite. So in future, when we study the Zhangfu theory, you will know that's the digestive function. We think that's the function of the spleen and stomach. In future, we will explain these different terms in Chinese medicine, what's the difference in Chinese medicine and from conventional medicine or from your anatomy? So in the treatments, the patient suffer from liver problem, you need to think about the spleen, you need to think about the stomach, the digestive problems. In clinic, we see patients with liver problem, jaundice, they will have poor appetite, and then this can be explained through the five elements theory, the wood, the relationship between the wood and the earth. So even when you see a patient with liver problem, it doesn't have to be the jaundice. It can be the liver problem from Chinese medicine point of view or from conventional medicine. You can predict what's going to happen afterwards, even if the patient hasn't presented with the poor appetite, because you know what's the relationship between the liver and the spleen. You also know the relationship between the liver and the kidney. So you can use this theory to explain different phenomena. Different phenomena that's in the clinic you see. You can use this theory to guide your treatment. You also can predict the development of the diseases. Once you can predict the development of diseases, you can prevent the disease become worse. So that's one of the purpose that you need to understand this theory. Similar to the other theory, the five elements theory was developed in the philosophical field, and then it was introduced to Chinese medicine. The original meaning of the five elements refers to the wood, the real wood from the tree, the fire, the earth or the soil, the metal, and the water. And then eventually these woods, we try to figure out the characteristics of these different systems. For example, when you see the tree in spring it keep growing, the tree will grow, the branches will keep growing, the new leaves is coming out, and then the trees also grows to other areas moving forwards. If you limit the tree in a very small space, the tree won't grow well. So anything from this point of view, if you limit the tree in a small space, it won't grow well. From this point of view, we categorize something growing, something moving forward as wood. So we put everything have similar characteristics under this category of wood. When you see fire, it's hot. The flame is moving up. The fire also bright. That's where before we have the electricity, before we have lights, we use fire to get the lights. So anything hot, moving upwards, or bright, we consider as fire. The earth, the soil on the ground, that's where we grow our plants, where all things can be planted in. So similarly, if something can grow something, can get the nutrition out of something, we consider as earth. For example, in our human body, the digestive system, we consider as earth, or the spleen, more specifically, the spleen and stomach, we consider as earth. The metal is a tool. A tool can damage something, can stop something, can stop fighting. So it can be a tool, can be a weapon. So something try to stop something, to slow down. To astringe, we consider as metal. When you see water, water is cold. Water normally it moves downwards. It will never move upwards. So something moves downwards. we consider as water. Something cold we consider as water. So these different elements we see the phenomena from the nature, and then we conclude to its characteristics, and then we use its characteristics. We further apply these characteristics into human health. These two tables illustrate the relationship between the nature and five elements, as well as the five elements and human body. The human body, from the concept of holism, the human body is related to the nature. It can be explained from the axons qi and axons theory. It can be explained through the yin and yang theory. Now, more specifically, we also can explain from the five elements theory. The reason is because the axons and qi theory, the yin and yang theory, and now the five elements theory, all what we talk about is qi. As we said, that the five elements is the movements of five different kinds of qi. For example, with the wood, we call the wood qi. Fire, the fire qi. The earth qi. Metal qi. And the water qi. So all these different elements are qi. It's very similar. So from this point of view, when we talk about the axons, and then we talk about the qi. So we talk about the qi. And then from the previous theory, the yin and yang theory, we separate into yin qi and yang qi. From the five elements theory, we divide the qi into five different qi: the wood qi, the fire qi, the water qi, the earth, and the metal qi. But what we focus on, the objects that we are studying, is the qi. So this is very similar to the example that we have mentioned previously. If I want to understand, I want to get more about someone, I need to analyze, I need to get to know of you as a student. But the students doesn't represent all of you. I also need to understand how you behave in your family as the kids of your parents. Then I will know, because sometimes you can see a good student who study very well in the universities, but they behave very badly at home. How do you define this type of person? Someone they don't study well, but they behave very well in the society. They help others. How can you define this person is a good person or a bad person? So it's very complicated. We cannot define a person from one point of view. Similar to here, when we study the qi, when we study the human health, the human body, we should not analyze from one aspect only, from yin and yang. Then we need the five elements. We need to talk more specifically how the spring related to the late summer, how the spring related to the yellow color, why the yellow color food with the yellow color can tonify the spring. What's the reason behind these phenomena? So that's the responsibility of the five elements. We put all different substances or different objects into groups. In the wood, the spring, when you see why we put these in different groups, because they have some relationship, they have something similar. The wood, for example, the tree start to grow in the spring, So we put the spring in the wood. In winter, it's cold. You put the winter in the water. This theory was developed in China, in the north. In the north, when you see the map of China, we showed you before. China is very big, the size, the boundary. In the north, it's very cold. In the south, it's quite hot. So in the south, you put in the fire. The north, you put in the water because it is cold. So we think in this way. Something similar, we put them into groups. Coldness in water. So as you can see here, you got some relationship. The coldness, the north, the winter. These are in terms of the temperature. When you discuss further, you may say that what's the relationship between the salty and water, the black and water. There are some other explanations. Most of them can be explained in this way. Some of them we still cannot explain. It is not because we cannot explain, because we didn't focus on the philosophical field. So if you need to explain these objects, why it was in this group, in this category, we need more information in the philosophical knowledge. For our study, as we emphasized previously, we don't focus on the explanation of where it comes from, but we focus on how to use it, how to apply the theory into our practice. So all what you need to do, you need to remember this table. The wind in spring is a windy weather. The tree is green. So all these have some relationship. You can think about you can think these by yourself. Try to think what's the relationship. The red color and fire. What's the relationship? The fire is red. When we see from the human body, these are the relationship between the 5 elements and the internal organs. So this is very different from the anatomy, or also very different from the conventional medicine. In conventional medicine, when you study the anatomy, you study from different systems, skeletal systems, vascular systems, muscular systems. So you study from these different systems, and then when you put all these different systems together, it becomes a human body. In Chinese medicine study, we put everything in groups, especially the 5 elements group. The wood, the fire, the earth, the metal, and water. Although we don't call it the wood system, we call it the liver system, the heart system, the spleen system, the lung system, the kidney system. And then when you put these 5 systems together, it becomes the human body. And there are some connections between the liver and gallbladder, the liver and tendons, the liver and the emotion. If someone suffers from the eyes problem, we will treat the disease from the liver. If someone got the mouth ulcer on the tongue, we will treat the heart. If someone got the mouth ulcer not on the tongue but in the mouth, we're going to treat the spleen. As you can see here, we mentioned the mouth ulcer. It depends on where they are, on the tongue or in the mouth. We're going to treat different organs because they have different relationship to different organs. You may ask why the liver, the gallbladder is under the liver and the small intestine is under the heart system. When we study the meridian, you will understand, because these organs, tissues are linked by different meridians. For example, the liver meridians, the liver meridian, there's one branch of the liver meridian connect to the gallbladder, and these two organs we also call the coupled organs. The liver and gallbladder, they are couples, so we call them the coupled organs. The heart is small intestine, the spleen and stomach, the lung and large intestine. The lung's meridian can originate from the middle jaw, goes all the way up to the chest and to the arm. There's one branch goes up to the chest and lower back to the large intestine and further back to the chest. So that's the relationship, why they link to each other, because from the meridian they link to each other. Apart from the meridian, some functions of these organs, they also help each other. That's something we can see from the clinics. So these two tables you need to memorize. You may want to know how to determine the nature of different objects, especially from the previous tables. How do you put them in different systems according to the 5 elements? We mainly use two methods, analogy and inference. For example, from the math, we knew that if A equals B, B equals C, then we can conclude that A equals C. So in this situation, it says the water is cold, and the north is also cold. So we link the water and the north. The fire is hot, the south is hot. We link the fire and the south. That's the analogy. The inference, the water is the water links to the kidney, and the kidney in Chinese medicine in charge of the hair, the bones, the bladder, and ears. So all these link to the water. So these are under the category of the water. From this video, we understand the definitions of the 5 elements, as well as the characteristics of different elements. In the next video, we are going to talk about the relationship between or among these different elements, and how to apply this relationship into our practice. Thank you for your attention.